I got slapped by a stranger in a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning, and by that Friday my entire life had been dragged out into the open for the whole internet to pick apart. I'm still not sure how I feel about most of it, but I want to write it down while it's fresh, because I think I finally understand something about myself that I'd been running from for 6 years. My name's David. I'm 34, single dad to a 5-year-old named Sophie, and until last week I was just a guy who delivered furniture for a living and picked his kid up from daycare every day at 4:45 sharp. That's it. That was my whole world, and I liked it that way. Sophie's mom left when Sophie was 8 months old. Not in a dramatic way, just she wasn't built for it, and she said so, and she left, and I don't really hold it against her anymore. It took me about 2 years to stop being angry and just get on with things. I moved to a smaller apartment, picked up a job with predictable hours, and built a routine. Daycare drop-off at 7:15. Work. Pick up at 4:45. Dinner. Bath. 2 books. Bed. Every single day, the same shape. It sounds boring if you say it out loud, but it was the safest thing I'd ever built for myself, and I protected it like it was made of glass. The morning it happened, Sophie had knocked her apple juice all over herself in the car. So we were already running late, and I just wanted to grab a coffee before drop-off so I could function. The cafe was packed. I had Sophie on my hip, a diaper bag sliding off my shoulder, and I turned around too fast and clipped a woman's arm. Her coffee went down the front of a very expensive-looking blouse. "I am so sorry," I said, and I meant it. "Let me pay for the dry cleaning, please." She didn't let me finish. She slapped me across the face, hard enough that Sophie started crying. Hard enough that the whole cafe went dead silent, except for my daughter. I want to be clear, I wasn't trying to make a scene. I actually put my hand up and told the people around me to put their phones down. I didn't want this online. I had no idea, sitting there with my cheek burning and my daughter screaming, that it already was. I found out later her name was Alina Voss, CEO of some logistics tech company I'd never heard of, and that she was having the worst morning of her professional life before she ever walked. Into that cafe, a big investor was threatening to walk before a board vote that afternoon. None of that excuses what she did, and I'm not going to pretend it does, but I think it matters for understanding what came after. The clip that went up first was 12 seconds long, just the slap. Sophie crying, me holding my face. No context. It ate up the internet by lunchtime. My manager called me that afternoon, not to fire me, just to ask if I was okay, which honestly surprised me, because I'd spent 6 years assuming nobody was really watching my life that closely. Then a longer video surfaced. Someone had the whole thing on their phone from the start, and it showed me apologizing first, offering to pay, being calm. That changed the tone of everything online almost instantly, and it stopped being messy confrontation and became something people were furious about. I didn't ask for any of that attention. I just wanted my coffee and to get my kid to daycare. What actually shook me wasn't the internet, though. It was her bodyguard. I noticed him a half second after the slap. Standing off to the side the way security guys do, except he wasn't doing his job. He wasn't stepping between me and her, or clearing the crowd, or doing any of the things I'd assume a bodyguard does. He was just staring at my arm. I had my sleeve pushed up from carrying Sophie, and there's a scar there, old and pale now, that runs from my elbow almost to my wrist. He looked at it like he'd seen a ghost, and for a second, neither of us moved. I didn't think much of it that day. I had a crying kid, and a burning cheek, and a stranger threatening to sue me before I even got in my car. 2 days later, that same bodyguard, Marcus, I'd learned his name was, quit his job. Just walked away from it. I heard later he gave up a severance package worth more than I make in 3 years. No explanation given. Alina Voss apparently had never seen him walk away from anything in the 8 years he'd worked for her. I didn't know any of that yet. What I knew was that a reporter called my landlord looking for background on me. And then another one showed up outside Sophie's daycare. And that's when I started to understand this wasn't going to blow over the way I'd hoped. See, here's the thing I hadn't told anyone in 6 years. Not my landlord, not my manager, not even the woman I dated for 8 months in 2022. My name wasn't always David Marlowe. I built that name after I came home from my second deployment and made a decision. I still don't fully know how to explain out loud even now. I was a fire team leader. It was an incident. I won't get into all the specifics. Some of it's still not mine to tell, but our extraction point got hit. Things went bad fast, and in the confusion I got listed as killed in action. I wasn't. I was alive, badly hurt. And I made a choice in the weeks after that I've spent 6 years telling myself was the right one. I let the paperwork stand. I disappeared instead of correcting it. It wasn't really about protecting myself. There were people connected to that contract. Powerful people who didn't want questions asked about how that extraction went wrong. And I was scared that if I resurfaced and started asking my own questions, it would put a target on the guys who made it out with me. Staying dead, in a strange way, felt like the only way to keep them safe. I built a new identity, moved 12 states away, and started over as someone whose life began at 28. Marcus was one of the guys I pulled out of that vehicle. He'd spent 6 years believing he owed his life to a man who died doing it. And I spilled a woman's coffee in a cafe and got slapped for it, with my sleeve pushed up. Elena's people, trying to get ahead of the PR disaster, ran a background check on me to understand the optics, and found what I'd always known they'd eventually find. A social security number issued strangely late, a work history that only went back 6 years, nothing before that. I wasn't hiding a crime. I was hiding a whole person. Reporters started circling. I remember standing in my kitchen at 11 p.m., Sophie asleep down the hall, thinking I was about to lose everything I'd spent 6 years building for her. The routine, the quiet, the normal life, where nobody asked me hard questions. I actually sat on the floor of my kitchen that night and cried, which I hadn't done since the week I decided to disappear in the first place. I made the call myself. Before anyone else could tell my story wrong, I recorded a short video and posted it. I didn't mention the slap at all. I just said I didn't die overseas. I just stopped being who I was told to be. That was it. I didn't expect it to do what it did. What I found out afterward, mostly through Marcus, who reached out to me directly a few days later, was that my old story and Elena's company history were tangled together in a way none of us had known. The subcontractor connected to that extraction gone wrong had, years earlier, done business with the logistics company Elena's father built, the same company Elena now ran. Her father, still chairman of the board, made a call to keep the old incident report sealed the moment reporters started sniffing around. Marcus intercepted that call. He still had contacts from that world and told Elena directly. Elena, from what I understand, had a choice in front of her. Protect her father and the board vote she desperately needed to save her funding. Or release an internal audit that tied the old contract to a cover-up nobody wanted resurfaced. She released it. She lost the vote. I heard she may lose her position over it eventually, though I don't know that for certain. Her legal team offered me a settlement not long after, a large one, to close the whole thing quietly. I turned it down. Not because I was angry, honestly, by that point I wasn't. Not really, but because I didn't want Sophie's story, or mine, reduced to a number in a spreadsheet. Some things you can't put a price on and still feel like you meant them. Marcus and I finally sat down together 3 weeks after all of it started, in the same cafe where it began, of all places. Neither of us planned that. It just happened to be where we both could get free that afternoon. Didn't say much for the first few minutes. Then he said, I've spent 6 years thinking I owed my life to a dead man, and I told him the truth. That I let myself disappear partly so the rest of you wouldn't get pulled into more danger because of what I knew. He didn't say anything for a long time after that. Then he just nodded, like something in him finally settled. Sophie doesn't know most of this yet. She's 5. Someday I'll tell her who her dad used to be, in pieces, when she's old enough to hold it. Right now, she just knows I got my old job back. A delivery company found out my story and offered me something steadier. And that Uncle Marcus, as she started calling him, comes by sometimes now. I don't know what happened to Elena Voss's company after the vote failed. I saw a headline that she's restructuring things, trying to build it on different terms. I don't feel much anger toward her anymore, honestly, even though the slap is the reason any of this came out at all. Strange thing to be grateful for, but here we are. I guess I'm still working through how I feel about 6 years of hiding, and whether it was ever really the right call, or just the only one I could make at the time with a scared, hurt version of myself. Was I wrong to stay disappeared as long as I did? Would you have made the same choice, if it meant keeping the people you cared about safe? I still don't have a clean answer. I just know Sophie's asleep down the hall right now, safe, and for the first time in 6 years. I don't feel like I'm hiding from anything.